Okay, we'll just wait for Director Chapman. And Director Dahl.
Pam, do you want to do a sound check?
Testing, testing. Where's Kermit? Did you see him?
He's here.
No?
Maybe he's in the washroom.
Oh, can you try again, Pam? No, we're not hearing you. Just 1 second.
After all this time, people can't figure out Teams.
Teams is not real good when you are trying to invite somebody outside of your,
Okay, one more time.
where Zoom is much better. Zoom is basically, it's a client, as long as you got the client installed, you're good to go. The only problem is, I mean, you're already paying for the license licensing.
Okay,
I'm
one more
assuming
time.
it's on my side.
No,
You're
we've
still
got
not
you.
able to hear me?
We've got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. My computer has given me troubles today, so that's good.
Okay, folks, we're good to go. Confirmation of quorum. We do. Call the meeting to order. We'll acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Liquid people. Adoption of public agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Petition and delegations, draft coronavirus test results. Pam Workington.
Mr. Chair, can I call a question on the agenda?
I guess I should. Question on the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Go ahead, Pam, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share. We worked with the regional district around Strathcona and over the last winter, 2024-25, to test homes for radon, and we would like to present the results. So Take Action on Radon is a national initiative that is funded by Health Canada, and the 100 Test Kit Challenge is one of our programs. We work with communities and provide free radon kits. It's a turnkey program, so we also include resources and everything. It's no cost to the community, but it does require staff time. So we certainly wanted to start by saying thank you for your support and the staff that helped us with this program. We have 4 goals with the 100 Test Kit Challenge. One is to distribute the test kits and get kits easily in the hands of citizens. One is to raise local awareness. And so we do that through our advertising and community information session. Also, we want to generate data, and so that's what I'm presenting now is the data that we've gathered and summarized from the testing program. And then we'd also love to inspire radon programs. So I have a couple slides at the end of the deck to share information about Health Canada's resources and other things that you can do to continue the conversation about radon. So to date, we've been able to work with over 160 communities across Canada in all provinces and one territory. We've worked with First Nations and Métis groups, and on average, we see about 70% return rate. So when we distribute a kit, about 74% of them complete the entire testing process. And from the kits that have tested, about 38% of or over 30% of our participants who have levels above 200 have already mitigated as well. And so I've included a list of the various communities in case you're curious about other communities that we've worked with across the country. But I'll just skip through those and just kind of dig into radon. So radon is a naturally occurring gas. It is found in our soil all across Canada. And through breathing in elevated amounts of radon, it is linked to lung cancer. And so Health Canada has proclaimed that it's the leading cause of lung cancer for non-smokers, and it's a contributing significant factor for those who have a smoking history. And in fact, they estimate about 3,000 Canadians per year are dying of radon-related lung cancer. Now, as I mentioned, radon comes from the soil. Uranium is in our soil all across Canada. Uranium decays and eventually becomes radon. Radon is a gas, so it moves out of the soil into our homes. So it can be found in all buildings, homes or other buildings through contact with the soil. It enters through that contact. We don't need to have basements. It can be in homes with basements or with slab on grade. Generally, the highest levels are found in the lower levels, and so that's typically where we test, and Health Canada recommends that all buildings test using a 3-month test during the heating season, and then if levels are above 200 becquerels per meter cube, that they take action to reduce it. And so the program that we did with the SRD, we were able to distribute 157 detectors and found that about 124 of them started this survey and then 117 completed the whole rate. So you can see that you had about our average of 75% return rate. So we do like to tell people that if they started their test and they forgot to send it back, to let us know, and we can check with them and see if they're still able to return it to us. They can mail it back to our offices and we'll make sure it gets to the lab. If they forgot to even start the test, they can certainly reach out to us. Now we're just getting to the end of the season. That's good to start, but they could still start it and try and get 3 months of testing in. Or they can set it up and test for a year and keep it through the fall. So they can certainly reach out to them and we'll give them to us and we'll give them guidance if they still have the test. But we do encourage people, if they did take one, to try and get their tests. For those that did test, they should have received a report by email, something like this, as well as a 1-page information sheet, just some information about what the number on their report represents and what the next steps are. And again, if somebody tested with this program but didn't receive their report, they do typically come by email. And so we're happy to help them chase that down. Sometimes emails come and go and we don't always see them. So we'd love to be able to make sure that they get that report. And the summary of the results of the test are, we saw 2% of the homes that tested above the 200 level. And so you can see in the graph and the chart here that the green represents the radon reports that were under 100 becquerels, and that was about 96%. Then yellow represents the homes that were between 1 and 200, about 3%. And then red are the ones that were above 200. So we saw 2 reports or 2% that were above that 200 level. Now, we also asked questions about housing structure and owner-renter and those sorts of things. And so we did see that majority of the homes that tested were single detached homes, but there was a little bit of variety in the housing structure. And then we also did see that majority of the homes were owners, but we do ask about this question because anybody that was a renter and tests high does need to communicate with their landlord. And so we do, like to share the fact that we do have resources to help tenants have conversations with their landlords if they do test and have high levels. Now, we also asked questions about whether people had tested previously. So there was a few people in the communities that had tested previously, but for most people, this was the first time they had tested. We also asked about whether there's rough-ins or an existing radon mitigation system, but all the participants said that they either didn't know or didn't have any systems already installed in the building. Now, this graph goes by year of construction. So another question we ask is what year the house was constructed. And then we graph it. So the green represents the tests that were below 200 and the red represents the tests that were above 200. So the top line is people we didn't know the age of construction or they didn't know or didn't provide it to us. But you can see here, there's limited data of high levels. But when we work with a community, we do typically see that there are red and green in each of these decades. And so one of the messages that we share out is that any home can have high levels. It's important to test and find out if you do, but it couldn't be in any year of construction. And so here is the public report. So up until this is just some granulated data that we're sharing for you to answer some basic questions that we typically get from communities. But we've summarized it into a one-pager, just simply sharing the number of homes that were tested, when the test was done, and the percentage of homes that is above the 200. And so this is the public report that we will share on our website so that people can access the information. Just so if you're curious about surrounding communities, we have worked with other BC communities. So you certainly are below the provincial average as far as percentage of homes. The provincial average is around 10%, but you can see by our data, there's a number of communities that have significant number of homes that are high. And then there are resources. So for those that do test and have high levels, there is a national certification program and training. So anybody who wants to become part of the training program, the certified professionals, we can help them access information. Or if somebody needs to hire somebody, we can help them also find somebody in their area. There's also a national mitigation grant. So if somebody needs to reduce their radon levels but doesn't have the finances, and they can qualify for the National Canadian Lungs Association Radon Grant Program. So we do have information about that as well. They do need to apply before starting any of the mitigation work, but after they have a test report that shows that they do have high levels. And then, as I mentioned, Health Canada does have some additional information, and so there's additional slides with information about what municipalities or provinces can do to continue sharing information and making information readily available for their citizens. So thank you so much for the chance to share this, and I certainly have time if you have any questions.
Director Wally.
My question is, excuse me, my question is those areas that were above the acceptable limit, the yellow and the red, within the Strathcona Regional District, were they confined to a kind of a tighter geographic area within the district, or were they spread throughout the entire district?
Yeah, well, there's only 2 that was above the guideline, and those 2 were scattered. The ones that were the yellow also were sprinkled throughout. So Health Canada's guideline is 200, which is above, it was in the red. The yellow are sort of emerging high levels, and yeah, they were spread throughout the district.
Directors, any other questions? Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I'm definitely going to be sharing this with my community. For folks that want to get tested, they see this report and they're like, oh, is my house a problem? How would they access the test kits? You may have mentioned that. I didn't catch it.
No, on the one pager that we have the community report, we do have some basic information on the second page of a link, but they can go to our Take Action on Radon website, and we do list a number of providers. So unfortunately, they're difficult to access at a store, so there's not a place they can go in and access, but there are a list of companies they can order online. The BC Lung Association does have them available. And I mean, that's partly why we partner with communities, is try to make kits more accessible. So that could also be another thing that maybe some of the community halls or offices could have some available through the November or something, if people are interested in having more accessible things.
Thank you. And a quick follow-up. So would you recommend that individuals do this, or that we as a community, have it accessible through the community hall or something?
Yeah, at the levels that you're seeing in the community, I would say it might possibly be a better option to have a library loan program where there's digital devices so that people could borrow them from the library and sort of share them around. But if you're seeing a lot of interest, I think one of the things that we did see is that there is a bit of a digital divide, so people aren't as comfortable ordering online. So, then if there's interest, we certainly could help support you figure out how to make them available from the town offices as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lott.
Thank you, Pam, for your presentation. It certainly heightens awareness. I had no idea that this was even an issue. If somebody did test positive, what some remediation steps are available to them to lower the levels so that it's not so health damaging?
Yeah, and we include a little blurb on the report too about that, just to give a little bit of information. But the most effective is called a radon mitigation system. So it is a pipe that provides a pathway for the gas to go up and out. So the pipe goes down through the subslab space, so either the concrete slab or maybe a poly membrane, so that it opens into that space below the house. And then the pipe provides the pathway up and out, and then there's a fan on it. So it just eases the air through that piping system. So instead of coming up into the home and the conditioned space, there's a pathway that it gets discharged outside. Once it's discharged outside, it reduces to quite low levels.
Subsequent question to the chair. Is there grants or funding available for people? Because a lot of folks may not be able to afford to finance that type of infrastructure system in their home. Is there anything available?
So the Canadian Lung Association has a radon mitigation grant. It's worth $1,500 and it is income-based. So people can go on their website, they talk about what the income requirements are and see if they would qualify. And then they need to apply and be approved before they start the work done. Another barrier, though, in your area is just accessing somebody who can help them. And so we do have a certification program that has a website where people can search and find somebody, but we can certainly help with supporting, connecting them with people that will travel to the area.
No, thank you very much. That information is really helpful. Thank you.
Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. Pardon me. I guess my question is, I would think the building code would need to be amended in order to provide venting of this gas out, especially before construction, so it could be built into the building itself and not retrograde solutions and going through permanent membranes. I winced at that. Is there a move to get the building code changed?
Yeah, and in fact, the BC building code does have measures for that already in it. So it has been evolving over the last 10 years or so. The last change, I believe, was 2024, so that it went from only certain regions to provincial wide, and it requires, that pipe to be pre-installed to exit the building.
Any additional questions? No? Well, thank you very much, Pam, for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Take care.
I'll move receipt of the presentation.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Adoption of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
For the minutes of January 28th.
Second is Director Mawhinney. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Business arising, none. Public consideration, none. Notice of motions, none. Chair's report. Brief blurb. Today is Anti-Bullying Day. This year's theme is sprinkling kindness, but simple, powerful reminder that small, everyday actions matter. Bullies and people feel valued, heard, and a safe place to do their best. Thank you. On receipt of report,
Move receipt.
thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you. Director Mawhinney got in there first. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Sinnott.
Yeah, I'll make a motion with respect to the Strathcona Gardens Commission that the draft minutes of the inaugural meeting of the Strathcona Gardens Commission held on January 28th, 2026 be received.
Second.
Director Chapman, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make the motion that Electoral Area D Advisory Planning Commission, that the draft minutes of the inaugural meeting of the Electoral Area D Advisory Planning Commission held on February 4th, 2026 be received.
Director Walling, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. regarding the Electoral Area C Advisory Planning Commission, that the draft minutes of the inaugural meeting of the Electoral Area C Advisory Planning Commission held on February 5th, 2026 be received.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Wally.
Number 4, Electoral Area Service Committee, that the draft minutes of the regular meeting of the Electoral Area Service Committee held on February 11, 2026 be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Jack.
Thank you, Chair. That the draft minutes of the inaugural meeting of the First Nations Relations Committee held on February 11th, 2026 be received.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Staff reports. Director Wally.
Director who? Director me?
Director you.
Covenant discharge of funds relief, Electoral Area A. Move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Director Chapman, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I move that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute the discharge of Covenant FB 97861 with a written agreement to be prepared by the applicant's legal counsel at their expense.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
Finally, I move that frontage relief be approved for Eagle Cove Estates, proposed lots 33 to 36, 38, and 39.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Environmentally sensitive area development permit application for Electoral Area D. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item B, that the environmentally sensitive areas development permit DP SD 25 as presented in the staff report dated February 18th, 2026 be approved, and that the corporate officer be authorized to issue the permit.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item C, that the geotechnical assessment dated April 4th, 2025, attached to this report be included in the required Section 219 covenant, and that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to sign the Section 219 covenant prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Rice.
Middle Natch Park accessibility grant opportunities. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item B, that the regional district submit an application to the 2026 Rick Hansen RBC Barrier Buster Grant Program for $40,000 to fund the purchase of installation of accessibility play structures in Middle Natch Park.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I'd like to move item C, that the regional district submit an application to the 2026 BC Tired Stewardship Grant Program for $30,000 to fund the purchase and installation of poured-in-place rubber servicing in Middle Natch Park.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item D, that if the applications are successful, the remainder of the project funding be approved from the Electoral Area D Community Works Fund to a maximum of $60,000.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Number 4, Director Lott.
Thank you, Chair. Number 4, opportunities for EV charging stations. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion?
And Mr. Chair, Sheena will speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair to the board. So this report is a follow-up to a board motion on September 17th, 2025, looking for opportunities for electrical vehicle charging stations in the rural areas, including smaller local governments, and getting EV or active programs available. Another area where the SRD struggled to get EV charging stations off the ground when there were open projects or open grants, thank you, was the limited amount of land that the SRD owns in which to actually host these. So a lot of the locations that had been identified were on Ministry of Transportation property, and the SRD just does not have jurisdiction to force those through. With collaboration with other levels of government, such as the Ministry of Transportation or other private property owners, there may be additional opportunity to get these EV charging stations in. The options that are available are sort of a partnership with BC Hydro, but their programs are also currently on hold. So they're installing chargers at the Strathcona Gardens location and have said that they want to see sort of what the uptake of that is before looking for any other chargers sort of in the more Campbell River area. And they're only looking for really high volume locations, so not so much appropriate for the rural applications. Through collaboration with the Ministry of Transportation, if there were locations that were identified, we could certainly work towards those. But one of the challenges of having any EV charging station is understanding the service area or the service function that would fund it. So none of these are sort of cost neutral. There aren't any, other than the BC Hydro model, any other programs where somebody else wants to be the owner operator of these stations. So the SRD would need to own and operate or partner with private businesses or identify private businesses who could always go out and take advantage of some of the programs that may be more available to them, such as some of the cost-sharing models out there like Flow and whatnot. So that would be sort of the private sector hosting model. And then certainly if the board willed it, we could create a service that could fund the operation and maintenance of these EV charging stations. But unless they were nested within, for example, I believe Area C and Area A Sayward have economic development services, there may be an argument to say that those fall under that, as a robust EV charging network does support tourism. But that is not currently sort of identified within their establishment bylaws. Certainly the smaller municipalities within the SRD boundary retain the authority to pursue EV charging initiatives independently under their own governance, so that is also an option. Part of the resolution was also a summary of work to date on the EV chargers. So between 2024 and 2025, staff engaged with BC Hydro and internal departments to explore opportunities to expand the EV charging network. We negotiated a license of occupation with BC Hydro for 8 EV charging stations at Strathcona Gardens, with installation expected by 2027. There were other locations that were identified at a high level, including the Oyster Bay, which would be on a Ministry of Transportation and Transit area, Blanken Park, Maple Park, and the Quadra Island Community Centre. Of these, Blanken Park was identified as the most suitable near-term SRD park location, although it is not currently advancing. And re-examining the 2021 Canada Healthy Communities Initiatives application, which proposed e-bike charging at Strathcona Gardens, Quadra Island Community Centre, Maple Park, and Manson's Hall, was unsuccessful, but it did provide a useful blueprint for future initiatives that could co-locate e-bike and EV charging infrastructure. So at this moment in time, I did not find anything that is sort of low-hanging fruit. And the next steps, if anybody would like to advance, if the board would like to advance this more, would be identifying those locations, identifying how we're going to fund it, and then pursuing any partnerships or service establishment that would follow. So happy to answer any questions from the board or chair. Thank you.
Directors. Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. So I heard you say that the application process is closed. There's no funding to be able to do these things. Do you have a sense of if that might open again? That's a possibility. And if so, should we do some pre-work to be able to do that right now, or what would you recommend?
So I would definitely suggest that being clear about what locations we would like EV stations to host and determining what a funding mechanism might be should a grant open up, because even if we get the grant to build the infrastructure, we are likely still to be the owners operators outside of that BC Hydro project or the NRCan project. everybody else wants us to have to own and operate. So as far as whether or not the programs will reopen, I don't have a crystal ball. The recent budget would not leave me super optimistic, but EV charging is still, I believe, a high priority of both the federal and provincial governments.
Okay, thank you. And if we do have locations or ideas, just connect with you. Is that what we'd recommend? Thank you.
Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. It's kind of disappointing with this report when I know that there were locations in Area D. In particular, the business center that we have on Glenmore Road. The business owners have been trying to pursue BC Hydro for many, many years and it would be on their property. So that was one location. And the driver to that is that in the summertime, they've had a fair amount of requests from all of the RV parks where people actually tow their battery-powered cars behind their RVs, and they use them quite frequently to move around. And there's no real close charging to that area, and that could be quite significant. So it's disappointing that BC Hydro has ignored that potential opportunity for how many years, and it still exists as far as I know. Thank you.
If I may, as a private business owner, there are other programs out there that are sort of cost sharing that may be of interest to them if they would like to host them on their private property. Thank you.
Director Sinnott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it's very similar to any kind of transportation things. Until you build it, you don't know what the demand is. But if you don't have the data, you can't make the request to and know where you're going to install these things. But sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and use your common sense and try and work either with a business or such. Are these types of projects suitable for gas tax funding? I think we heard that we didn't have necessarily any capital needs yet on Cortez for the gas tax, but this sounds like a perfect project for gas tax.
I believe, if I may, Mr. Chair, I believe they are. It's more about the operations of it, right? So we could allocate some gas tax money to it, but we'll need, as Sheena shared, that they're not exactly money-making ventures at this point, so we'll need to subsidize the operations and therefore have a service to do that.
Okay, Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. Well, that actually sparked another question for me, so I might have more than one question. I really thank you for this report. I thought it was really interesting, and I learned that the idea also of co-locating e-bike charging and EV charging, which I think would really work well on Quadra Island, where I see e-bikes expanding use by the month, if not by the year, for sure. So one of the things I didn't really notice in the report was any comment, like it talked about the SRD not having a lot of land to situate charging stations on, although we did list some parks, but I didn't really see a mention of partnering with the smaller municipalities, which may have land in their municipalities, that they might be interested in locating a charging station and or a process for the SRD to support that. So for the SRD to play a facilitation and advocacy role with municipalities, would the board need a motion of interest from the councils to move that forward, or would it just be able to come from the directors here at the table, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I would suggest that municipalities should perhaps identify their own need for that and perhaps come to the board that way. A service would need to be established. I know that the SRD does not operate any services that overlap all of the municipalities to my knowledge. So I would be understanding, what they want, where they want it, and how we're going to pay for it. And then we can certainly advocate or partner in any way from there. Unless the corporate officer or CAO have anything they'd like to add to that.
And if I just as a follow-up, I like for Quadra Island, I think that there's a real opportunity for locating e-bike and EV charging at the community center or Blanken Park. They're sort of interchangeable. You listed them there. And so I do have a follow-up motion, Chair, which is just that I think that it's worth continuing to explore this and keep this on our board radar. So I like some of the options, the alternatives that are listed in the report. So I have a motion about that following receipt. Thanks.
Director Dahl.
Well, I think I'm probably the only person sitting at this table that owns an EV. And I would question the value of spending any more of staff's time investigating this unless it's a municipality or an electoral area that wants to put the money up. Reality is that the demand for electric vehicles has been pretty much wiped out by the U.S. Ford has discontinued all of their electric vehicles. Chev has discontinued all of their electric vehicles. So unless you're pandering to the 40,000 vehicles being imported from China, the likelihood of demand growing in our area is zero. And the only reason I say that it's a waste of time is because of that. I own one. I was really happy when Strathcona Gardens was going to get 8 more chargers. But in the last year, a lot of things have changed with the U.S. market, and with 40 million Canadians, our market share of vehicle production isn't high enough to demand that the big car manufacturers continue with electric vehicle production. So I think that for the next several years, it's probably a waste of staff's time to continue to invest in a vehicle type that unless something changes in the U.S. is just a waste of time. There's the number of vehicles are on the road. There's enough charging systems available now. Electric hybrids don't need to have a designated charging port. So, I see the demand dwindling, not growing. The 40,000 cars coming from China that Carney has agreed to will probably end up more in the Toronto and metropolitan areas. We don't have the dealership distribution available to be selling those vehicles here, and I doubt that anybody's going to build a dealership in a community of 38,000 to try to sell 15 cars a year. So that's my piece on EVs.
Okay, Director Mawhinney? You wanted to say something else.
I think she had a motion.
You had a motion. You had a motion.
Do we need to call the question on
So
receipt
call
first?
receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So my motion is whereas the SRD's strategic priorities include developing robust and diverse economic conditions for communities and supporting mitigation of climate change, I move that staff continue to explore opportunities for e-vehicle and e-bike charging infrastructure through partnerships, advocacy with senior levels of government, coordination, collaboration, technical support, data sharing, and assistance with grant applications for municipalities, private businesses, organizations, and institutions within the SRD as outlined in alternatives 1, 2, and 3 in the Electric Vehicle Charging Opportunities Report of February 12th, 2026.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Discussion. Director Dahl.
Where will the funding for this come from?
I anticipate looking at the motion that it is just staff time. So whatever staff, Sheena is an allocation of general government. So she generally falls under the collective board. So everyone here under the 70-30 model.
Any other discussion? Director Colburn?
And would this be kind of, continue to explore at the desire of or the will of a municipality? If someone asks for something, then would you do that? Or would it be, a blanket, I'll just keep looking for grants, or what would that be? Would it be at the direction or the ask of a municipality, a business, an organization, and then that would come back to the board?
I would anticipate that it keep the flame alive, if you will. If opportunities arose, we would explore them. If requests came forward, I doubt again from municipalities because they will look after their own EV charging. So it's I think it's a passive way just to keep the EV charging opportunity alive. And if something comes around, we would bring it back to the boards for consideration. I don't think we're going to, actively pursue things, especially right now that they don't seem like there's much available.
Director Dahl.
So with the CAO's comments there that the municipalities would take care of themselves, the expectation that we would be willing to pay for 70% of this when we know that the market for EVs for the next minimum 3 years is nil, I definitely will not be supporting this.
Thank you. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I do think for myself that the reason that I brought forward this motion, and along with it aligning with our strategic priorities, is that I just think that it's important to keep the opportunity open. And as the alternatives mention, the potential of providing support, if such as was mentioned earlier, if there is private business that would like to have EV charging installed, that we would be able to potentially help with a grant application or something of that nature. So for myself, I can say that for Quadra Island, tourism is a really important part of our economy, and we have lots of visitors that come from larger municipalities with their EV cars, and currently there are no public EV charging options on Quadra. So I think it would be really beneficial, and I can see that I imagine that it would be similar need in other smaller municipalities, which is why they were asked to be included in the original motion that came forward.
Okay. Director Lanyon.
Sure. Okay. When I read this proposed motion, it seems a little bit ambiguous in terms of what level of resource we would give to it. It just says continue to explore. So I think we should clarify that, or else we could isolate the funding source to the areas that are interested in participating. Because I do think you could also read this with what we've learned about how it's funded, that staff continue to have Campbell River pay 70% of the opportunities for other areas to implement e-bike and e-charging stations. And I think I have to echo Director Dahl's concern that there just aren't going to be grant opportunities while we're in a bit of a fiscal crisis in Canada and BC. And with the change in production of vehicles, moving away from EVs for now, I think this is something we can just kind of pause on. And then just if opportunity comes across our desk, yeah, I think it's something we can just reinitiate at that point. I think if Director Mawhinney's concerned, or has interest on Quadra-specific projects, we can bring those back at that time. But I think we got to be careful about staff capacity. I think anything that we keep as an open file, even as a side of desk project, could have the effect of distracting and displacing from other higher priorities. So I think without any kind of modification to this proposed motion, I will just have to vote against. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the question. Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I'm grateful that we're doing this at the Strathcona Gardens. It sounds like we've got 8 charging stations there. I know there's over 7,000 stations across BC. And I think, every community, if you were offered charging stations, you'd probably say yes. There's certainly no harm in it. And just hearing from the CAO's comments around, staff capacity and timing, it's really just saying, let's keep the door open here. If there's grants that come across, opportunities that come across, they'll come back to us. Just seems like a really easy yes for me with very little downside. Thank you.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Keep your hands up, please.
Can you lower that? Can't see who's online.
I'm sorry?
Just take the names of those opposed.
Those opposed are Director Rice, Director Kerr, Director Sinnott, Dahl, Lanyon, Chapman, and Baker.
7 opposed. 7 opposed.
Okay, online, none opposed.
Davis in favor.
Davis is in favor. Director Jack?
In favor.
Thank you. Director Lott?
In favor.
Thank you. 7-7? 7-7, therefore it's defeated. Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Wally, number 5.
The report from the CAO be received on the Sayward Natural Gas Study.
Second that motion.
So, Mr. Chair, we had a request from the Village of Sayward Council that the regional district explore undertaking a study to determine the cost of extending natural gas into the village, and I'm going to assume the valley and the surrounding area. How I would interpret this request from the village, and the chair can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the regional district wouldn't do an evaluation. We would connect with Fortis and explore any opportunities or willingness they may have for doing a cost evaluation to provide natural gas if they were willing to do that. So the alternative would just be committing staff time to connect with Fortis and see if they were willing to do that. If they were, we would bring that information back, and if they weren't, we would also bring that information back. But this request, again, the regional district itself cannot do it. We can be a conduit to communicating with Fortis and seeing if there's an appetite for them to look into the cost of providing the service to the village and the valley area.
Director Wally?
Mr. Chair, I think this item is premature. I don't think April Fool's is still for a couple of weeks yet. And anyway, the Sayward Village Council, at their recent council meeting, they resolved that the Strathcona Regional District be requested to undertake a study at the region's expense, which I take exception to determine the cost to extend natural gas service to the village of Sayward and surrounding area. Of course, that surrounding area is Area A, which they never bothered to consult with. If they had, we would quickly realize that Area A is not at all interested, will not participate, will not spend 1 cent on this. So this is strictly a Village of Sayward pipe dream, if you excuse the pun. Now, I know that although the Kelsey Center has been shut down for months, it continued to heat that building, and the village offices, of course, are in that building, their council chambers. They heat it with propane, and that's expensive, and I understand that. But running 80 kilometers of gas pipeline to reduce those costs is simply unrealistic. Now, as for Area A, we're a rural area up there, and our residences are spread out all apart over 60 square kilometers of that valley, up and down miles of little side roads and logging roads. We haven't even been able to provide those houses with high-speed internet, never mind gas pipelines. So the village itself, in my opinion, hasn't got even close enough customers to warrant the cost of service delivery. And in addition, many of the village residents have already switched to heat pumps. They can't afford to buy new gas appliances, especially now they got a 42% tax increase, they got an increase in their utility fees. And then another point that people don't consider is the fumes that come out of these natural gas stoves. They emit toxic gases like nitrogen dioxide and benzene. They're a risk to respiratory illness and other health things. Now, just for your interest, I used to work on the natural gas pipeline when it was initially installed across Canada back in the 60s. And one of my greatest thrills on that job was a little gas leak on one line, ignited, blew up 10 miles to the next pumping station, opened the whole ground up like a can opener. So I don't even want to see a gas pipeline run through the entire full length of the Sayward Valley. So in conclusion, because Area A isn't interested, we'll never have a service to do this. It's strictly a village issue. It's got nothing to do with Area A. I'm opposed to wasting staff time. You talk about wasting staff time, this is a waste of time. Or consulting fees on a fruitless investigation of what's realistically impossible. And after receipt, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I disagree with Director Wally. I mean, yes, the village council is unanimous in agreement that we should check and do a study to see if it's even feasible. Director Wally does not have all the answers on whether or not it's feasible or not. That's something that it would be done by the residents of the village and perhaps even the valley, for that matter. So I fully support, and I fully support option A, that the regional district proceed to evaluation of cost to provide natural gas service to the village of Sayward and surrounding area. Director Mawhinney?
Thanks, Chair. I was just curious about this request by council. And I guess I'm just curious about the rationale. I was wondering if it would be possible to ask you. I know it's awkward because you're in the chair, but you are speaking to this issue, so hopefully you could maybe explain a little bit more of where it's coming from. I did go back actually because I was quite curious and look at the village meeting where this was discussed, and there didn't seem to be a lot of context shared about why this was coming forward. And I guess as well as that question, my other question sort of stems to like the cost to the SRD, and having the SRD as an intermediary seems questionable when maybe it would be more appropriate for a municipality to be communicating directly with the corporation that they're hoping to engage and provide the information.
It was brought up to us through people in the village, residents. I've been asking off and on for quite a few years since I've been in office on whether or not we could ever get natural gas out into the community. So this is an opportunity to study just to see whether or not it's even feasible, as far as I'm concerned. Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. I know that in my community, we always have quite the heated discussion on gas because it is quite expensive for the homeowners to request permission to extend a gas line. I know with my own house, I argued back and forth for quite a long time. We only got one, and the bill for the one was quite significant to the property owners. What I'm trying to say is I think that natural gas is something that, we should be supporting quite heavily through our communities. I'm quite concerned when we have municipalities, mandating that by 2035 we're all going to be on electricity, even though we're not even that close yet. So this is only a study. It's a high-level study to find out if it's even feasible. So I think supporting it at this point in time would be a good thing.
Thank you. Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think from the point of view, I'm maybe speaking for the other City of Kamp River councillors, is that there'd be interest in investigating the total gas demand that could be used by the island. We've got information recently that corresponds to some of the economic initiatives for the city. And so getting more information about potential other gas demand and particularly industrial use would be particularly useful, including demand for electrical use as well. So just understanding what the needs are on the island would be very valuable from the point of view of City of Kamp River. There's other issues going on that deal with supply of energy to the island that we're dealing with.
Thank you. Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Chair. I think I agree with those comments around, what is the demand? Let's show that there's demand before even looking at it. I did a little bit of research on what it costs to put natural gas line to rural communities, and the research showed roughly 300 to 600,000 per kilometer. It's a lot of money, and it sounds like this is asking the SRD to finance that. Am I getting that right?
I don't know the details. I'm just speaking to the motion, but how I would interpret it, my first step would be to go to Fortis and say, is this something you would do? If they said no, I would come back to the board and said, okay, if we're going to explore this, we need some money. So here's some opportunities where it could come from. But my first instinct is to ask Fortis if they'll do it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I would recommend that the Village of Sayward do a bit of a study and see how much interest there really is. So we can see the numbers, and then have the village approach Fortis BC to see if they're even willing, and then we can talk about ways the SRD could be involved. But it seems like at this point it's extremely expensive. We're not clear on what the demand is going to be. So I support the exploration, and if the village wants to explore it, I'd encourage them to do so. But I don't think at this stage it makes sense to bring it to the SRD.
Director Martin? Davis?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about this. I mean, it's absurd to think that you're going to run a natural gas pipeline up from Campbell River. But I guess my question is, you could put in pipes in the village of Sayward, but can you bring in natural gas by boat? Because that would be the only way it would work economically. I just don't know if that's an option.
I have no idea, but that can be asked during the study process. Director Dahl?
Any assets will be held by Fortis. So I don't think it's very complicated to send one letter to Fortis to say, would there be interest in pursuing this, and let them say yes or no.
As a quick exercise, I agree, Mr. Chair, is that would be our intent, and I think Fortis would quickly respond back whether it was even feasible or on the radar. We've done something similar with BC Hydro, as Director Rice knows, and I mean, they can say yes, and then they give you the number, and it's an obvious yes or no, right? So I think we could. My intent would be if the first option passed, that's exactly what I'd do. We'd reach out to Fortis, we'd get their response and bring it back to the board and say, do you want us to take this any farther?
Okay, Director Wally, then we'll call the question.
Yeah, I have no problem with writing a letter to Fortis, but my point was that seeing as Area A isn't going to be part of it, this is just a village issue. Why doesn't the village write a letter to Fortis? Why have the regional district staff waste their time on it?
Director Lanyon?
Sure, I can try to address that. Like Director Sinnott mentioned, City of Campbell River is dealing with specifically natural gas constriction issue that will limit economic growth on the North Island. So if we can add to our case by saying, hey, there's other areas on the North Island that are also interested in adding natural gas demand, that may help us get allocation. And just to be also clear from the environmental perspective, in 2024, 22% of BC's electricity usage was imported from Alberta and the US and generated through natural gas or coal. So if we are thinking that we have enough power to power the heat pumps, we don't. Like those are ultimately being powered through fossil fuel consumption elsewhere. Natural gas isn't evil in that respect because we're not adding to the total carbon output by using it for heating our homes. We're displacing significantly the need for electricity, which would otherwise be imported. So it's a net neutral for us. And it is, I think electricity of our total BTU energy consumption is about 17% of the province as a whole. Industrial growth requires natural gas. We're talking to the tune of like 80% of our total energy production and is gasoline and natural gas and diesel. So it's just very, very significant. Electricity will not be the thing that allows for industrial expansion and economic opportunity seizing on the North Island. It will be through availability of natural gas long term. Yeah. Or at least medium term.
No, just hang on. We got Director Von Esch and then Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate Dr. Dahl's comments. Let's write a letter, see what Fortis says. If Fortis says they're interested, then we can make a decision from there. And also just want to, reiterate to the board that we have a windmill project that's starting, that's been approved and moving forward on the North Island. That's going to produce electricity for 56,000 homes. So, I think the argument that we importing electricity is a good argument, and I think that the ways that we can grow and the ways that we are growing green electricity is actually really great in this region. So I support writing the letter. I don't think it makes sense to actually do an evaluation of costs. Because FortisBC will make that decision. Thanks.
Director Rice, then Director Wally, then Director Dahl.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment because the CEO talked about the fact that I was pursuing hydro for Upper Campbell Lake and Cedar Creek. I do want to reiterate to the board that there was no cost to the board. I was only looking for permission. It was myself and SRD staff and BC Hydro that had managed to get together and make the meetings. and have that happen. We got all of the information. So this came at no cost to any other electoral area. This was only an exploration, and if we hadn't done it, we would never have known, was this even feasible? So when I take a look at this, I'm a little bit offended when people talk about costs. There are no costs right now. We're only exploring at a very high level. Thank you.
Okay, Director Wally?
I just thought I'd make a comment. I'm not sure if the board's aware, but in 1994, the city of Vancouver banned all natural gas to new housing constructs. And then recently, because they have made a push to expand housing, they have relented as far as heating and hot water, but that's all. So in the very near past, they had totally banned it.
Director Dahl?
First, I'll ask Director Vonish if he was talking about there needs to be minimum of 1 year, preferred 2 years of data collection to see if it's even viable to do it. So although the energy minister and utility commission are talking about that happening, the earliest that it could possibly come online would be 2031. We've spent the last probably 4 months looking at this because it's going to produce, I think, around 70 megawatts less than Capital Power does currently. There is some huge issues coming for Vancouver Island and a lack of electricity. And if the results of data collection come back and say, no, this isn't a viable location, that wind farm won't even happen. So we're minimum of a year from even knowing if it might happen, and if it does, it's going to be 2031 before it starts to produce electricity.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Oh, pardon me, you have to pick, I picked option A, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. We're still on receipt. On receipt, all in favor? Opposed? On receipt, you're opposed, Director Mooney? I'm just late in raising my hand. Okay, thank you. The motion is passed.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion now. I'm going to move option B, that the regional district not proceed with an evaluation of costs to provide natural gas to the village of Sayward and the surrounding area at this time.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Director Lanyon?
I'll vote against and then move option A. And I think moving option B, having not read the room, is a waste of time.
Director Colburn?
I was going to actually ask on the previous, on the report section, what steps had this Village of Sayward taken to reaching out to FortisBC on their own and writing a letter, because that seems that would precipitate all of this happening at this board level or help us. Anyways, do you know?
No, the CAO was, him and I had a conversation regarding it, and we both agreed that coming from the SRD is going to carry more weight than it will be coming from the small municipality.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Dahl?
I really don't understand why we're looking at option B when writing one simple letter to Fortis will answer the question. I don't understand. We will not own any assets. If Fortis sees it as being cash flow positive, they will say yes. If they see it as being negative, they will say no. At the end of the day, if it's going to be positive, they will put in the pipeline, they will provide the service, they'll provide the gas, and they will get their money back over time from selling the natural gas. Whether electoral area A wants to participate or not will be irrelevant, because they won't go to the director of electoral area A and ask him if his constituents want natural gas if they're on the pipeline. They will go to the constituents and ask, when the pipeline goes by here, do you want us to put in a service? At the end of the day, the electoral area and the SRD own zero assets and have zero risk. So I don't understand why we would be opposed to just voting in favor and getting this done.
Director Wally?
I got a staff question.
Microphone, please.
A question for staff. So if this is as Director Dahl suggests, does that mean we wouldn't need a service in Area A for this?
I tend to agree with what Director Dahl is saying. I do not see a scenario where we create a service, we invest any money, similar to what Director Rice was talking about with Hydro. They're the purveyor of the utility, and they'll either see a business case for it or not. I would anticipate if they don't see a business case, we're certainly not going to invest in it. And if they did, similar to telecoms, they go invest and they know they're going to get a certain level of uptake over time. If they believe they're going to get that and that's going to outweigh their investment, then they'll do it. So I tend to agree. We give it to Fortis. They know whether they're going to invest or not, and they give us a yes or no, and then we bring it back here.
Okay, so if we don't need a service, then I don't care.
So are you removing your,
No. We'll call a question.
okay, first we'll go to Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention that in Area D, Fortis went ahead and put in a big facility on one of our back roads. There was no consulting with the SRD. They just went ahead and did it. They even got a road paved that we could never get paved. So, and they did exactly that. They went out to all of the residents and asked, would you like to be hooked up? So I don't know why we're arguing on something that should be really straightforward.
Director Mulroney for the last comment.
Well, thank you, Chair. I think part of maybe it's been a misunderstanding with this is that the options that are in the report are followed by a schedule, which talks about creating a Sayward natural gas service. And the report also really talks about the regional district providing capital financing to cover any shortfalls that would appear. So I think for myself, like having a report which talks about creating a service and covering shortfalls through long-term financing and having to get the approval of the electors, it seemed like it was a lot more complicated than these two options here in the report. If option A said that the regional district proceed with writing a letter to Fortis and inquiring about providing natural gas to the village of Sayward and surrounding area, I would be in favor of that. However, the way that the option is written here, it's talking about proceeding with an evaluation of costs. And we've heard about, maybe it needs to land by boat. Other options we have here talking about shortfalls of costs and being responsible for potentially taking those on as a regional district. And that really is why I have been in favor of option B. So if option A could be modified, I think I would be much more in support of it. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, the report contains just information. The alternatives are for the board. Should they wish to have a different option, then that option can be moved, certainly. If you want to move option A, B, that's up to the board. I can promise you my interpretation of A is going to Fortis. If you're not comfortable with that, then just somebody create another resolution that's more specific to reaching out to Fortis.
Okay, we have a motion on the table for option B. All in favor? Opposed? Is it easier just to say who's in favor? Yeah. Thank you. The motion is defeated.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that staff write a letter to Fortis to evaluate whether they're interested in installing a natural gas pipeline to the village of Sayward.
Second.
Discussion? Director Lanyon?
Does that give you enough latitude, or is that too restrictive?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Fortis is going to quickly know whether that is of benefit to them or not.
Director Davis?
Yeah, this speaks directly towards building a pipeline up there. I don't think they're going to go for it. And again, I don't know if bringing it in by water is an option, but do we not want to include an explanation of that in the motion?
I think, given the discussion, let's reach out to Fortis and see if they have an interest. If they don't, and the village or the valley still have an interest in other options, let's discuss that at the time. But let's see if Fortis has any interest. That takes very little effort, and I think they're going to quickly identify whether it's of benefit to them or not.
Okay, so on the new motion, Director Senate?
I just want to follow up what Director Davis has said in terms of the distribution. Probably people may recall Victoria had a natural gas system years before the pipeline ever came to the island because they brought in LNG by vessel and trained it into the downtown core. That's why there was train tracks in the middle of Wharf Street down by Capel Iron to storage facilities. So it's not completely out of the realm of reasonable if you had your own infrastructure within the town that you'd have storage for LNG. And there may be, again, because of the issues that the city of Campbell River is looking at, there may be an option that we're looking at as storage of LNG on island. So I'm not opposed to asking that additional question if that's flexible enough for staff, like just to explore other options instead of the main line going up the highway to Saybrook if that's prohibitive, if there's other options. I still think it's very expensive, but it's worth seeing what they say.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Pardon me? Let's take 5. Okay, will we resume back at 1:55? 10 minutes, folks. I believe I am.
I appreciate it.
Still on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I would move that the application be submitted to the 2026 Emergency Operations Center Grant Program for enhancing emergency response on behalf of the local government and First Nation entities that are identified in the 2026 report from the CAO, and that the SRD commit to overall management of the grant if the application is successful.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Lanyon, number 7.
Regional District Policy Review. I move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Discussion? Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. That was an interesting report. Specifically, I'm curious around Policy 54, which is guidelines for investment of funds. It looks quite comprehensive, yet it was created in 2003, so I'm sure there's room for improvement. The report states that the policy duplicates provisions of the Local Government Act, but I wasn't clear on which sections of that Local Government Act were being duplicated, and I understand that there may also be sections of the Community Charter which apply to regional district financial management. And I am curious about, I think my preference would be that we do not revoke an investment policy until we're clear on what the overlap is. Because I do think that there's a benefit to considering best practices with regards to investment and reporting requirements and things like that, which I'm not sure are included in the community charter or not. So maybe staff can speak to what is covered and if all of the items are included in that or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is that the policy does intend, or does, whether intentionally or not, duplicate provisions of the statute. I won't profess to know all there is to know about it, so I would prefer that the Chief Financial Officer perhaps explain what the issue is with respect to policy number 54.
Hi, thanks. Yes, essentially it is a duplication. So if you, I don't know the specific sections offhand, but the legislation does make the CFO responsible for safekeeping of all the financial assets, and then it also regulates what we can invest in, which is a limited number of financial suites of financial products, and that's essentially what the policy itself says. So it's just redundant with the act.
Okay. On receipt? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, Director Lanyon.
That policy's number 4, 41, 54, and 67, enacted by the Comox Strathcona Regional District, inherited by the Strathcona Regional District, be revoked.
Second.
Discussion. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to have a follow-up motion, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I would move that a report be brought back on investment policies, which identifies relevant provincial statutes and options for consideration, including key objectives, investment parameters, custody, and reporting requirements. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Director Chapman, Director Kerr. The motion is carried. Director Mawhinney, number 8.
Thank you, Chair. Marine Debris Response Fund, move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Director Wally, discussion? Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. And I really want to say thank you to staff for the report, which identifies that really the only way to create a marine debris response fund, as was requested by Greenways Land Trust, is to create a service for it. And I personally think that establishing such a service would be us as a regional district shouldering responsibilities which seem more reasonably the purview of the province, and I'm not really in favor of that. I think perhaps if there were future situations which required a significant response and expense, a non-service solution could be that the citizens or group which are spearheading the project could apply for a regional grant and aid. But along with the request to consider establishing the Marine Debris Response Fund, the Greenways Land Trust asked that our board advocate to the Ministry of Environment and relevant federal agencies to clarify jurisdictional responsibility for non-hydrocarbon debris removal in the intertidal zone. And so following further conversation and receipt of this report, Chair, I do have a motion in that regard. Thank you.
On receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I move that this board writes to the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship, Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and Transport Canada, requesting clarity on jurisdictional responsibility for non-hydrocarbon debris removal in the intertidal zone and affirming this board's support for the Clean Coasts Act. Thank you.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? Director Colburn?
Is there some way to request like a reply all from, because you know what's going to happen with this. This way, that way, this way, that way, this way, that way. They're all going to answer separately and they're all going to say it's someone else's responsibility. So I'm wondering how to capture what we
Actually going to be meaningful. Why don't, before we do this, reach out to other regional districts that are coastal, see if we can get some support from them first, and then do a gang letter. I think that might be more appropriate.
Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps we could add on to the motion and just ask that other coastal connected regional districts are included with this correspondence or the CC'd so that they will also know that we're doing this work and we have a chance to follow up with them potentially, or they would follow up with us.
Anybody else? Director Colburn?
I still don't think that that piece of correspondence is going to get what we want. I'm just thinking the outcome that we want to come out of this, and I don't know that this will land us there. So, I mean, I'm in favor. Write a letter, go ahead. But we receive millions of pieces of correspondence all the time, and so do other regional districts. And so, I think, it's going to have to be AVACC, a UBCM, a resolution, somehow different. Thanks.
Director Dahl?
I agree with Director Colburn. I think sending the letter is fine. I agree sending it to all of the other coastal regional districts is a great idea, but I would reduce the list to just fisheries and oceans and see where they send you. I think that our region spends enough time communicating with the Fisheries and Oceans Ministry that we probably will get the most traction with them and the best chance of talking to Minister Thompson. Reality is, the provincial government is broke as broke can be. They'd be lucky to afford a stamp to return the letter. So I would stick with who we probably have the best chance of getting some communication going with, and Fisheries and Oceans, I think, are the ones that are really responsible for this, but they will point their finger at Transport Canada.
Okay, Director Von Esch?
Yeah, it just seems like one of those situations where we kind of feel like we already know the answer. No one's going to want to take responsibility. We know that all coastal communities are dealing with it. It sucks to walk down the beach and see garbage washing up on shore. I think our best move, I like the idea of connecting with the other coastal regional districts. And I think the best move would be to get to something at AVICC and at UBCM. So it's too late for that. Not for UBCM? Yeah, so that other coastal regions be contact together, support, and create a joint resolution for UBCM. Would that, I'm seeing some nods around the board if that's a friendly amendment. If someone would second that.
Second.
Discussion? Director Wally?
What about adding our MP to that? Get his support?
Dr. Dahl?
Or MLA.
I could add the MP and MLA. I wouldn't worry about AVICC, really, they just refer everything to UBCM anyway. So we can just accept that we're 2 weeks late and send it right to UBCM.
Okay, so just for clarity on the amendment to the motion, just adding that other coastal regional districts be contact to gather support for a joint resolution at UBCM, as well as contacting our CCing our MLA and MP.
Are the movers and the seconders okay with that? You seconded, Director Colburn? You're good?
Yeah, I just think that maybe and that this is CC'd to our MLA and MP for just so that it's not part of the same phrase as the joint resolution.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, Director Jack, number 9. You're on mute.
Sorry.
No problem.
Thank you. 9, the First Nations reconciliation process. A, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B,
That the First Nations specific strategic planning session be pursued to support readiness building and help guide the engagement of a qualified consultant to reinitiate development of a First Nations reconciliation framework.
Second.
discussion? Director Colburn?
I'm wondering if this is a strategic planning session that would be of the First Nations Relations Committee or of the board. The reason I ask is because I'm wondering if there are members of the board that are interested in attending something. It's interesting to be on that committee and not have an exact direction, especially now that things have changed within the framework of that we had a consultant that isn't consulting with us anymore. And so we just kind of, I'm wondering if it's something that the board wants the First Nations Relations Committee to do, or if that's something that is a larger ask of the board, just for ask's sake.
Just asking.
Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a good question, Julie. No, I'd support the First Nations Relations Committee doing this work and that work coming back to the board, but open to other suggestions.
Director Mahoney?
Thanks, Chair. I think also that the work being done at the committee level, where we've already been, those committee members have been appointed to do that work and bring back, it would be easier to schedule and move forward with the process. And then ultimately, just as happened at other, Community Health and Wellness Committee and other committees like that, that work is done in committee and it is brought to the board for consideration, and sometimes it's sent back to the committee again. So I think that would be my recommendation, is for it to be done at the committee level.
B, right?
a question for staff. Do we need to, if we wanted to do that, should we make that clear in the motion, or can you just?
Yeah, I think we should. That would be fair, just to bring clarity, whether it's the committee or the board.
I would make an amendment as the seconder then. That if, so that it would read that a First Nations specific strategic planning session of the FNRC be pursued to support readiness building and help guide the engagement. Blah, blah.
Second the amendment.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Motion is amended. Motion is amended. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Mawhinney, number 10.
Thank you, Chair. Kumugwi Cultural Society presentation, move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
Thank you, Chair. Move that Negedzi Hereditary Chief Rob Everson Gigogam Wallace Kwagut be invited to make a presentation to the board on cultural erasure and political and legal challenges of today, and to express gratitude for sharing the cultural erasure booklets.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Dahl, number 11.
Invoices exceeding staff authority for approval. Let the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
That the invoice number 999 in the amount of $322,441 from North Island 911 Corporation be approved for payment.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C.
That invoice number 907 in the amount of $529,848.71 from Broad Street Properties Limited for ongoing land development, services, and construction for the Just Like Home project be approved for payment.
Second.
Okay, Director Chapman got in there. Discussion? Director Dahl.
Do we have any update on how that's going?
We have an in-camera report that you'll get an
Okay.
update there.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Mawhinney, number 12.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Regional District Donations Policy, move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Discussion? Director Sinnott?
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. I mean, I was familiar with doing this years ago when I worked for a publicly run telephone company. We had a donations policy back in the day when people wanted services, they could donate, the actual technology back to the company. So what are we perceiving the kind of donations we're looking at?
It was Director Mawhinney's motion, so.
Thank you. Well, specifically, what is happening is that through our financial plan of last year and this year, we are working towards funding a pavilion being built at the Blanken Park and the Quadra Island Community Center grounds. And there often is interest from community members in potentially donating products or services to support the construction. And there's also sometimes a concern that without a policy to identify how we're doing that, it can be challenging to accept the donations. For instance, if there was a policy, it would maybe say that if the excavating is being donated, I'm just using that as an example, then they would need to be WCB insured. It can't, or there needs to be sort of parameters for that. And I have seen that the Cowichan Valley Regional District recently also adopted a policy for donations exactly for that. So they can actually put out an expressions of interest to the community and have the donations quantified in a meaningful way so that they can be included in the process. And I think that the Community Center Quadra Island Recreation Society Board of Directors would be really interested in being able to receive donations for the project. So that's why I brought this forward. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. That's good. I'm just going to say for staff, reach out to various organizations that do accept donations. So for example, the museum at Campbell River, people are constantly trying to give them items, and there's a definite cost to protecting, maintaining, and displaying or storing them. And then the city of Campbell River also has issues from time to time, especially if things have Indigenous cultural connotations or aspects to them, that you then have to do a lot of consultation afterwards at the end of life with respect to how to handle those items. So you have to be cognizant of all the different risks that go through with those donation policies.
Director Chapman.
Well, just one quick note is that, and Director Lanyon has more recent experience, but, giving evaluation on in-kind donations can be problematic. So a lot of caution needs to be taken in that, along with what Director Sinnott has mentioned as well. So we can get ourselves into a lot of hot water if we start inflating in-kind donations for receipts for tax purposes.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't actually contemplated providing tax receipts. That was really more just my thought was that occasionally and from time to time there are businesses or individuals that would like to be able to make a donation towards a project at the community center, for an example, because it is a regional district project, regional district owned, and being able to accept that would be really helpful. And having a policy to identify how we do that would be, and that we can, would be great.
Director Colburn.
Hate to get in the weeds here, but is there a way to do that as such that, I do believe that we need a policy either way, right? That's a good idea. But is there a way of signaling that out, that piece, whether it's to a community organization, a community hall, something like that? I just, without getting too much in the weeds and not doing more than we need to, which is really R&D from somebody else, pieces from somebody else. That's Rob and duplicate, not research and develop.
Right. And if I may, Chair, I think the reason that the motion says in-kind donations and, policy options, and also for regional district projects, I guess if there was another way of saying regional district projects, but to me, that would be projects that were owned and managed by the regional district, of which the community center on Quadra Island is one.
Director Sinnott.
Yeah, finally, it just occurred to me, Rotary is doing it all the time within the municipality, so there must be, or city. It's calling, I'm going to show my age. So there must be significant information you can sort of rely on to manage it. And I know the city actually is a charitable entity, so it can issue tax receipts. And, if people actually give value and you give proper receipts, I think it's all for the good.
Okay, call the question on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
Sorry, I forgot that part. Move that a report be prepared on policy options for accepting cash or in-kind donations for regional district projects.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Mawhinney, number 13.
All right, thank you, Chair. Advisory Planning Commission, Public Access. Move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
And I will move that a report be prepared with policy options regarding Advisory Planning Commission meetings to uphold policy CPO 36, Section 461 of the Local Government Act, and considerations for public accessibility, and that the report be returned to the Electoral Area Services Committee for consideration.
Discussion? Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. My one question or concern that I have on this is that how do we make sure that the directors have an opportunity to fully view whatever the minutes are from these APC committee meetings in a productive manner? When our APC committees make a referral, they come back to the board, and it's generally the director that speaks to, you know, the reports that come back from the individual APC committees. And there lies my concern that if the directors, gloss over what has been said or done at an APC committee, how would the other directors know what was actually happening? The reason I put this out is that I just saw a meeting, and I have concerns about what happened in that meeting, and I'm not sure that my concerns would actually be reflected well in just reading minutes. So that's my concern on that.
Director Wally?
Seeing as the minutes from the APCs are mandatory, perhaps the minutes could be expanded a little bit if there needs to be some clarification on something by policy.
Well, if I can, Mr. Chair, not to get in the weeds of this, the minutes of APCs are spoken through resolutions. So similar to the board and the committees here, we don't write War and Peace. It's generally spoken through. You can live stream and you can watch this meeting and listen to it. But our minutes are reflected in the resolutions.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. This request for financial assistance, Strathcona Wilderness Institute. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item B, that a grant and aid for the Strathcona Wilderness Institute in the amount of $3,000 to assist with the 2026 Wilderness Education and Stewardship be paid from the Electoral Area D grant and aid budget.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Dahl, Bylaw 1.
Bylaw number 631, 2026-2030 Financial Plan and the Capital Expenditure Program. That the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
That bylaw number 631 being a bylaw to adopt the 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan and Capital Expenditure Program be now introduced and read a first time.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
That any written submissions from the public in respect of bylaw number 631 be received by the board at this time.
Discussion? Director Wally, sorry.
We have received no letters.
We have received no letters. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
That any members of the public wishing to address the board regarding bylaw number 631 be permitted to do so.
We have no requests, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
That the rules be suspended and bylaw number 631 be given second and third readings.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
That bylaw number 631 being 2026 Financial Plan and Capital Expenditure Program bylaw be now reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Discussion? Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank staff and everyone around the board table for getting us to this place. It's, we've got a big budget. We do a lot of work and especially grateful to the staff for really sitting down with us all and getting us to this place. So thank you all.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Mawhinney, number 2.
Thank you, Chair. Bylaw number 632, Port Neville Wharf divestiture. Move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I'll move B, that bylaw number 632, being a bylaw to authorize amendments to the disposition agreement for the Port Neville Wharf facility, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I will move C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 632 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And finally, I'll move that bylaw number 632 be returned for further consideration by the board following the conclusion of the public notification process.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice, number 3.
Bylaw number 634, Freedom of Information Amendment. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item B, that bylaw number 634, being a bylaw to amend the regulations governing access to public records held by the regional district, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 634 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item D, that bylaw number 634 be an information access and privacy protection bylaw amendment number 2 be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Sinnott, number 4, please.
Yes, it's respecting bylaw 635 Strathcona Gardens temporary barring. The report from the CAO be received.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
And that bylaw 635 being a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing for financing improvements at Strathcona Gardens be now introduced and read a first time.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
That the rules be suspended and bylaw number 635 be given second and third readings.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And that bylaw number 635 being Strathcona Gardens temporary borrowing authorization bylaw 2026 be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Correspondence.
I'd like to pull item 1.
Sorry, was that you, Director?
So I'd move items 2 to 6 for receipt.
Okay, item 1, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
No?
Item 3 should be pulled,
And, yep.
and item 4.
That leaves 5, 6, and 2.
And we could pull item 5 too.
And 5 is things.
5 and 6?
Nope.
5. What's left is 6 and 2. 6 and 2 be received.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Starting with 1.
Thank you, Chair. This is a letter from the Cortez. Oh, move receipt of the
Second.
letter from the Cortez Housing Society.
Second? On receipt, thank you. Discussion, all in favor?
Can I just?
Discussion?
Yeah, I just had a few comments. Just wanted to let the board know this is a request from the Cortez Housing Society to get tax exemption on their 55-acre piece of land where we're doing a housing development right now. And this would come into the 2027 tax year. And just, I'm excited to let everybody know that the first 2 units are almost at completion, and 2 units are going to be provided for community in June, and the next 2 units are going to be available in the end of the year. These are 2-bedroom units, and they're giving priority to the highest needs. The first 2 units are going to young women with children, and yeah, just wanted to report that we're making some really solid progress on Cortez and housing, and you know, by providing this tax exemption, which will come back to the board in a bulk way with all the other tax exemptions closer to the end of the year, that this is a way for the housing society just to really try and provide as affordable rent as possible in the housing they're building. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Director Senate?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So just so I understand, because we do have a process, obviously, at the City Council for these, this is just an early letter warning, and they don't have to follow with the regular application? I'm just confused.
Yeah, this is a letter to the board. They've also filled out the official application that gets bulked with all the other tax exemption requests from the district.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Number 3.
I'll do that, Chair. So this is a request for financial assistance for the Mountaineer Avian Rescue Society. The correspondent was quite clear. The financials are there. They do have an ask that they're looking for a $12,000.
To be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Discussion, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You had started.
Yep, you can finish.
And I'm curious, and that's actually why I pulled 5 as well. So the reason was we had already discussed this, that we had enough, what we had enough for and what we didn't. And so I'm just wondering where we are with that. What does that number look like now that we have supported infill and we have the ones that we had already kind of done for the year? What does that look like for the grant and aid budget?
Well, I don't know what the amount is for this one. Is it identified in there? 12,000. I think our budget is probably $70,000 or $75,000. We are not at that. There was some requests that we anticipated that we have not received, I think search and rescue. So we are not at that limit. It is not a hard cap number though. You're not held exactly, but we are below that number right now.
Okay, and sorry, and I'm just, this again is another one of those regional kind of things, right? There's been many times where we've taken birds from Cayucit, from Zabalas, there's bears, there's, you know, and it really is a needed service. So I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in there for it. And we don't have to pull 5, we could just accept it now.
Okay. Director Senate?
Yes, it's interesting that we haven't got anything from search and rescue, and that was one of my concerns when we were setting the amounts, that we had enough money, because now we've got another regional potential grant that's going to potentially impair the ability. So what's our options if we get another grant and aid that pulls our budget out of line?
Well, we would bring, like these, what we're hoping to in our grant and aid policy, our regional policy, is outline some criteria and process for groups applying, because often they are coming through correspondence and somebody's peeling them out. So we can certainly bring an update report to that. I think we have a coming cow that we have the policy at. That would be a convenient time to bring forward what we've got, what we've spent. Again, the number's not a hard number in there. We can exceed it. But to give you some kind of awareness of where we are, I think we can do that at the cow where we present the next draft regional grant and aid report.
Hey, Director Wally?
My suggestion is that we do what the grant and aids often do, is that we receive all the requests through the year, and then later in the year we go through them and see which ones we can afford to fund. Because if we just willy-nilly fund them as they come, then there'll be no end to the limit of people that apply. We got to have a fixed budget somewhere. So I would suggest we wait till the end of the year, we go through them, we pick the ones we want and deny the ones we don't.
Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. And this is maybe a weird question, but I know that we, as the item in number 5 alludes to, that we, at the board, provided funding support for InFilm, the North Island Film Commission. And I was curious, because we did that, I think it was last month, and we just passed our financial plan today, would that have come out of last year's, like the 2025 financial
No,
plan? Or
this
will it
year.
come out of this year?
This year.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Well, I also appreciate the suggestion that Director Wally made, which is to collect all of the requests and then consider them at a future time. So I'm not sure if that would be appropriate to refer this correspondence to the next committee of the whole meeting, or if there's another process that staff could provide that would be more suited.
Mr. Chair, I move we defer this to the committee of the whole, and we can get a policy and decide what we want to do. 1 month's not going to hurt anything.
Do we know that for sure? Do we know a month delay is not going to affect them?
That would be my question too, is this is for their for this year's, for their 2026, 2027 rehabilitation year. These guys run all year round. I know they're always looking for blankets, food, all of that. I would be willing to make, it's on deferral.
Mr. Chair, they're not going to get paid to the end of next month anyway.
Okay, Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Reading through the document, they have listed very clearly, they've described exactly what the grant and aid benefit will be for, and they have a project start date of March 1st, and then the end date is February 28th. So I don't know if this affects their start date, so that would be my only concern.
Okay, Director Waller, Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reiterate my support for this. I know this is an organization that Cortez residents have brought injured animals to, and I think they do great work. And I also agree with Director Wally's comment around, which I think we'll discuss in COW, of how we accept these, because right now it's really sort of first come, first serve, and the organizations that get their applications in early sort of have a competitive advantage, whether or not the need is greater or our priorities are greater. So yeah, I support this and look forward to the COW.
Director Davis?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I also support it, and I've definitely used their services in rescuing an eagle and a loon in the last couple of years. I'm also happy to defer it to the COW.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We don't have a second. Your motion, we don't have a second.
I'll second it. Sorry, we're seconding. Oh.
Deferral. Further discussion? All in favor of deferral? Opposed? Well, there's one. So do we have another motion?
I will move that the SRD funds the $12,000 grant request from the Mountain Air Rescue Society through the Regional Grant and Aid Service.
Second.
Discussion? Director Stinnett?
I would suggest an amendment that we take up their invitation to do a presentation as well. I think would help us at the COW.
Sure, I'll take that friendly amendment and invite them to represent.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Number 4, who pulled 4?
I did, and basically this is just a follow-up, so I'd like to have a motion to receive this, please.
Motion to receive.
Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Go ahead.
So again, we see big problems with provincial budgets, and that's why I just wanted to pull this, that, here the province is pulling back on a number of initiatives, and it is going to have a big impact. And I think that, when we start looking at all of the things that the government is clawing back, that I don't know where we draw the line, but I think the line has to be drawn, fairly quickly on some key initiatives that, various regional districts have in the place. So I'm not sure what the next steps is, but it is quite concerning that, these things are happening, and, I'm not sure where it ends. Thank you.
Director Colburn?
I wonder if the province is considering pulling back on some of their legislative changes they've made in the recent years.
Right. So on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 5.
I pulled 5, so I'll just, the funding support for in-film, just for receipt.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Director Rice?
Thank you. I did happen to see the first film that was the press release that came out on this, that of the motion picture that was filmed in Saybert. It was quite interesting. Unfortunately, it's not going to be available for Canadian markets, but what I thought was quite interesting is that it seems like Saybert has quite a good location that is attracting other interests. So I hope that continues on. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Von Esch, members report.
Thank you, Chair. Age-Friendly Communities Grant Program. I move that the report for myself regarding an application under the Age-Friendly Community Initiative Grant Program be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Whereas the population of British Columbia is aging, and by 2031, nearly 1 in 4 residents will be aged 65 or older, and whereas the province of British Columbia, through the Age-Friendly BC program, in partnership with BC Healthy Communities, supports local governments in assessing and planning for age-friendly communities, and whereas the Age-Friendly Communities Grant Program, Stream 1, provides funding of up to $25,000 to support age-friendly community assessments and the development of action plans, and whereas Electoral Area B, Cortes Island, seeks to proactively plan for an inclusive, accessible, and supportive community that enables older adults to age actively, safely, and with dignity. And whereas the Cortes Island Community Foundation has demonstrated capacity in community engagement, facilitation, and project coordination, and has expressed its willingness to undertake the development of an age-friendly community assessment and action plan for Electoral Area B, therefore be it resolved that the Board of the Strathcona Regional District formally endorse the development of an age-friendly community initiative for Electoral Area B, Cortes Island, to authorize staff to apply for BC Healthy Communities for a $25,000 2026 Age-Friendly Communities Grant under Stream 1 on behalf of Electoral Area B. 3, upon successful receipt of grant funding, authorizes the Strathcona Regional District to enter into an agreement with the Cortes Island Community Foundation to carry out the age-friendly assessment, community engagement process, and development and publication of an age-friendly community action plan for Electoral Area B. And 4, authorizes the disbursement of funds received for this purpose to the Cortes Island Community Foundation in accordance with the terms of the funding agreement. And 5, directs that the completed age-friendly community assessment and action plan be presented to the board and made publicly available.
Director Wally, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Sorry?
Oh, I thought Julie had it.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just curious. I did read your report, and it's great that Community Foundation is willing to do this work. I'm just wondering, staff working with them, is this something that you have done before? And do you foresee any kind of, is there any risk kind of, assessment, or anything like that? Just for asking.
I wouldn't say this exact scenario we have done before. I mean, we've worked in collaboration for grants. Just the timing of this, the regional district itself doesn't have a competitive application to this program. And because of the timelines, we're going to rely on information to populate the application by the Community Foundation. I don't think there's a lot of time before the submission mates. And so the application is coming from us. However, it's being populated by the Community Foundation because we just don't have the time. If there was more line of sight on this, we would probably work a little more collaboratively on this, but I understand the closing date is not far away.
Okay. Let's go to Director Colburn. For you, we did call the question.
Did you call a question, Mr. Chair?
I thought I did. Yeah, before Julie spoke, I called the question. Yes,
So I presume it passed?
yes. It passed.
corporate officer doesn't.
Okay, so you.
That the report from the CAO be received ongoing in camera.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I move that the meeting be closed to the public to consider matters deemed to fall within the parameters of subsections 91A, E, F, G, I, K, N, O, and 92B and C of the community charter.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. We're now going into